Hey everyone, your favorite real pastors are back, and we are here ready for another review for
hmm
you. So, for our Friday edition of Real Pastors, we get to talk a brand new movie and a
How
brand
about that?
new MCU movie
In the theater.
in the theater.
Yep.
So, first thing before we start off, Gary, I said this to you last night. Gary and I went together to the movie, and then last night when we got up, I didn't realize how packed the movie was,
hmm
and I was like, this is nice.
Yeah.
This is very nice. I was very excited.
That was a really cool moment because we got there. What was it? Right when the preview started. We got there right when the preview started, and so it was dark. We're trying to find our seats, E7,
Hmm.
E8, and the whole dark moments in the theaters,
Yeah.
and so we didn't realize how packed it was until that moment. The lights came on, we stood up, and people were just surrounding us, and it was just like, we're back. Look at that,
Yeah.
It gave me some joy, gave me some peace that we had some normalcy. And I
Hmm.
told Efren, I said, I wish we could go back to a year ago when we started this show, and especially me when all hope was lost in the future of
Hmm.
theaters. We were in the swing of COVIDs, and
Yeah.
I wish we could go back and just say, hey, it'll be okay. It'll be
Yeah.
okay. So how about that?
Yeah. I know that part was very exciting, and I was glad to be there, to be back, and seeing people, it's pretty much flocking back. It seems like to the theater
Mm-hmm.
for this one. So, of course, as you know, if you've seen the title, we went and saw Black Widow last night, which
Mm-hmm.
officially released today, I guess. But
Yeah.
in lieu of midnight showings, they now do Thursday night showings. So that's why Gary and I got to go see it, and so we went to go see Black Widow, one that both of us are really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah.
We had our reservations going in,
Mm-hmm.
and now you get to see our thoughts. So here we go, talking about Black Widow, and there's the logo. There's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much the three main players right there
Yeah.
um, of the whole movie.
There's your
So
core of the movie: Scarlett
yeah.
Johansson, Black Widow, and Red Guardian,
Hmm.
and the other one. I can't remember her name.
Yeah. Yeah, some Russian name. She didn't
Yeah,
have a
Lena.
cool like
Yeah,
superhero
yeah.
name. She was just I forget the character's name.
Mhm.
But pretty much those are your three main players. And just like a quick kind of oversight overview here about this one is like you pretty much have Black Widow. This takes place after Civil War,
Yeah, it's important
so
to know that.
yeah, very important to know that. So this takes
Yeah.
place literally like right after, like I think it said 2 weeks later or something. Like shortly
hmm
after the events of Civil War is when this movie takes place. But of course,
hmm
it happens before Infinity War, and it kind of leads into,
hmm
um, like the Infinity War stuff. If you remember the end credit scene of Civil War, the end credit scene there is that they come out and Cap comes out and is starting to break people out of prison.
hmm
So this kind of like leads into that kind of section of things
hmm
that leads into Infinity War as well.
Yeah.
So that's very important to know
Yeah.
um, that this is where this take place. And coming up here, does this review contain any spoilers? Man, Gary, can we do this without spoilers? I mean, this is. I mean, I think we can try our best, right? I mean, we kind of have to because we want people to go to the theater to watch this thing.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So yeah, this
I
will
think I
be
think we can do it without spoiling.
this
I
will
think
be
so.
spoiler free.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Don't
Uh,
worry. Yeah.
yeah, we'll keep this spoiler free. But what we told you again, you should know this going in, so you know what's going
We'll
on.
save the spoilers for the Fix It episode.
There we go.
Don't want to play my hand too soon, but just kidding.
Yeah, yeah. So a couple things on that. So that's what we wanted to put out there first. Like, no, this is when this takes place. Here's what's happening, and we're diving into a lot more really into the backstory
Mhm.
of Black Widow and things like that. So that is
Yeah.
what we are
And
digging into.
I'm glad you said that because I wish I would have done my homework before we went and saw this last night because I've been so removed out of this universe.
Mhm.
Yes, we've had Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and uh, uh, WandaVision, but I just forgot about what was going on during this time. So when it started, I'm sitting there I'm thinking about Endgame, and I was like, wait a minute, where is this? I leaned over to you and I was just like, just a bad moviegoer. I was like, this is after Civil War? You're like, yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. I was like, I know. But yeah, it is so important because if you don't, it'll take you out of the movie if you don't grasp that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has to be like this. This is definitely a prequel in sense of everything else that you already know that is going on. So you gotta keep that in mind as well. And I did want to show this, Gary, because I saw this before we dig into our review, and I thought this was actually like pretty cool. And so check out that IMAX poster that they
That
made.
is pretty sick.
Yeah, so the world needs to know this is a pretty sick
Yeah,
IMAX poster.
yeah,
So if any of y'all can get your hands on this poster, I suggest that you do because this is one of
yeah.
the better posters. I mean, because especially
That
Marvel.
is, yeah.
I mean, we've seen how Marvel posters are. Let's stick everybody's heads on a poster,
Hmm.
and they're kind of like not creative. Then there's an art to movie posters, historically. And
Hmm.
so I like this one because it kind of made it comic booky, had a good art to it. So I
Hmm.
thought it was really cool. Thought I'd share that before we dig in.
Hmm. Yeah. It looks like the name of the movie is IMAX.
It
But that is
does.
a sick poster, though. That is a sick poster. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this.
Yeah.
Finally, we've been talking about a solo Black Widow movie. I have felt like she needed her own movie for a while,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, we got one. And then COVID happened, and then we waited, and we saw it
Hmm.
last night. So, Efren, I'm gonna let you start.
All right. So we probably should just dig into this and first of all deal with the good, like we always
Mhm.
do. It's always good to start with the good.
It is.
And I know for me, while watching this movie, I did think there's a whole lot of good in this. I like that they decided to. Well, I don't know if they decided. I kind of feel like they maybe had to, but the story of digging into the Red Room, her background, like how she got brought into this world of being a Russian super spy, super assassin. So I thought that was really good. The opening credits, I guess, because here's the thing: Marvel hasn't had opening credits
Mm-mm.
for as long as I can remember,
Mhm.
at least the MCU stuff. And they brought back opening credits, but they did it in such a way where the opening credits also told a story. So I
Yeah.
really like that, and I liked the tone that it set.
Hmm.
And we'll dig into some of that later. But I thought that was really cool, and they really did try to give you this like James Bond slash Mission Impossible kind of
Yep.
feel with this movie, which I really appreciated because I'm like,
Mhm.
none of these people have superpowers really, except for the guy you saw in the Red Guardian, which we'll dig into
Mhm.
later. But all the widows and stuff, they're just super assassins and like smart
Yeah.
and stuff. So I'm glad that that's the angle that they took with this because it made a lot more sense to the Black Widow character and all the other characters that are in there.
Yeah. Yeah. The opening montage, the opening credits, I thought the same thing. When it starts off, awesome cover, Smells Like Teen Spirit,
Yeah.
playing in the background, which was, like you said, it set the tone really well. And I was like, okay, what are we getting in for here? And very James Bond, very Mission Impossible. And you're right, because they're assassins, they're spies, whatever you have it, and it really dove into her backstory really, really well. So yeah, it starts off tremendous, you know,
Yeah.
and and let's see. So that's a huge part of the good. I think.
Hmm.
Sorry, I got somebody running into the bedroom here. Anyway,
No
uh,
worries.
another part of the good. The cast was great. Scarlett Johansson once again nails this part, this
Hmm.
character. She is. I've always been a fan of hers anyway, but always been a fan of hers as Black Widow. David Harbour as
Hmm.
Red Guardian. We'll get into him later. I don't want to spoil anything, but I thought he was great. Thought he was hilarious. But who stole the movie for me was, and I got the IMDb machine up. Florence Pugh, who played Yelena Belova. I don't know.
Yeah. Yolanda.
She, yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but she was the best character in this movie, in my opinion. She
Hmm.
stole the movie.
Yes. Yes. And this is one that, with her, I mean, she did steal the movie, and this is where maybe good, kind of bad. It's kind of that in between
Hmm.
with that character for me because on the one end, we all know what happens in Endgame.
Hmm.
Like we know, right? I mean, we know where Black Widow's heading. So like they needed if they wanted to continue this kind of storyline and have this movie exist instead of making it feel like okay, we're just going to give you a little bit more to close out this character and be done with it. Obviously they're going to try to do more. So they needed her to take center stage a little bit more in this movie just so
Hmm.
they can have her continue doing things further down the line in the MCU. So like it made sense, but that kind of the thing I kind of didn't like is just like I mean I know Black Widow isn't just Natasha. Like I get that. I get there's a lot of Black Widows and stuff. Like I know that's what they're saying, but at the same time it's like we're here to see the story of Natasha,
Hmm.
and I felt like where Florence Pugh's character, she stole the show a lot, and you can tell they wanted her to continue down the storyline for future stuff. It was just kind of like seeing Natasha take a semi backseat was a little disappointing,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I understand it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think this kind of felt like her. This felt like Marvel, MCU, Disney, whatever you call it, giving her moment. Saying
hmm
this is your victory lap with this character because of what happened in Endgame. This is a we're going to give this to you, um, and yeah, so definitely felt that way, and I thought she was great in it, and yeah, so trying to think of what else for the good. Thought the action was pretty good. You know,
yeah,
um,
action was pretty good. It definitely kept it action packed. It kept things moving. They kept
the family
things
dynamic, family was really
family.
good.
Yeah,
That was
I still
actually
I still love you. I still love. As everyone know, Gary had a great joke after the movie. There's a scene that you see in the trailer. They're all sitting around the dinner table and they're kind of bickering and talking. And Gary was just like, I expected Vin Diesel to show up. Hey, family,
family. We're family.
family.
Get back together. It's like that's my favorite thing right now. I can't stop the Vin Diesel. If you've not seen the Vin Diesel family memes or Dominic, go check them out. They're
Yes,
amazing.
please do.
But yeah, that part of it was great. A lot of heart, a lot of character development, which I love. Efren, I love that.
Yep.
And but that could have been done really poorly, but it wasn't.
Yeah. So there you
So
go.
there
You
you go.
got a good shot there of the family.
Family.
And this is kind of like a heartwarming heartwarming part of
Yeah.
this movie. We see them, and they're working together and things like that. So I mean, again, these are some good things that happened during this movie, and
Mhm.
um, and this was kind of like, as we'll dig into here in a second, kind of a mixed bag for me, because there was actually a lot that was good about this movie.
Yes.
I mean, there was. I mean, we're trying to talk about it without giving anything away. Um, and again, like the story and
That's why I'm
stuff was
having a
really
hard
good. But
time, honestly, folks. I'm having a hard time not spoiling things. Sorry if I
yeah,
seem out of it. That's why.
yeah, and that's all right. So digging into the bad, I think we can talk about this without having to spoil anything, but still get maybe a little bit of our frustrations out. So digging in, Gary, why don't you go ahead and start us off there on what you saw that wasn't the best, were just bad in this movie.
Marvel continues to have a villain problem.
hmm
Yes, we got Thanos, who's great. Yes, we've got Loki and other villains, but there tends to be a trend where, for whatever reason, in these standalone solo movies, non-Avenger movies, they just don't. The villains just don't. I don't know what the word is. Honestly, I'm sorry. I'm a little spacey today, but this villain in this movie, it didn't really matter. They try to make it a heartfelt moment, and it didn't go over well. It was kind of like
hmm
wah, wah, like please don't do that. Oh, they did it. Dang it. Uh,
Yeah.
the main villain is faceless for most of the movie. He's just kind of the guy in the background, and so when I come away from this movie, that is the biggest issue with me. Is when it comes to the bad, is not a great villain. You
hmm
know.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and piggyback on this because this is one that I talked to Gary about before we watched the movie. Um, because the villain stuff, like I don't get it. I don't get why they have to have another like looming villain in the background when you have,
Mhm.
comic history wise, a great villain already that you already said this person's going to be in this. And I know for me, Taskmaster, again, not going to spoil anything, but with Taskmaster, they just dropped the ball. And this
Mhm.
was disappointing for me. I think most comic fans, if you have read the comics, you will be sorely disappointed in how they handle Taskmaster. Taskmaster. I mean, if you know the history of this villain, he is very intelligent. He is very, he has his power of being able to, through his super intelligent photographic memory, to be able to mimic um, people's movements. That's why he can fight toe to toe with the best of them. He's gone toe to toe with Spider-Man. He's gone toe to toe with Black Widow, Hawkeye, a lot of the maybe more hand to hand kind of people, but he's gone toe to toe. He's given them a lot of issues, and this villain was one to truly meant to be tangled with, but it is very closely tied as well to Black Widow and her events in the Red Room and stuff. And even some of that, a lot of that stuff has kind of developed and changed over the years. But, there was a lot, and it had me very excited because I was very excited about this villain. This is one of my favorite MCU villains because of what he brings to the table. And of course, like I said, like he fights Spider-Man and stuff. So that's always going to bring people up for me. And the fact that they just dropped the ball. They just decided to do this thing again, this whole heartfelt thing to where Taskmaster is now connected to Black Widow and just like all this stuff. And I say this not as a spoiler, but I say this because so many movies are doing this now. They can't just have a villain where they're just the villain and to where they're just the bad guy. And I know some people might be out there saying, I don't like it when people are just bad just because they're bad, because they just want to, rule the world, or they want to see everything burn. But if we remember in recent memory, some of our favorite villains, like Heath Ledger's Joker, we loved that villain because there was no rhyme or reason. He was just bad. He did just want to watch the whole world burn. And there was a little bit of mystery there because we all know, okay, obviously there's got to be something more. And even in that movie, they tangled with it. They talked about it a little bit, like, he kept making up these stories because people always want to have a backstory, and he just kind of made fun of that. But we love that Joker. We love what that Joker brought to the table. We love Thanos because, yes, we may have understood his reasonings, but there's absolutely no way that any of us would have got to those lengths to say like, well, I'm going to wipe out half of humanity. So yes, we understood it, but we didn't like empathize or sympathize with Thanos. We knew that he was still evil. He was still bad. He needed to be stopped. And then with Taskmaster, they did not do that. So it was very disappointing for me. And so again, like he said, just the villain problem continues. Like, stop trying to redeem villains. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't want that. None at all.
We don't need it.
We don't need it. We don't want that. We like the characters that we already had in the comics. Like, just give us that. Give us the adaptation. We don't want this new heartfelt nonsense. It's from our villains, especially villains like Taskmaster, who historically never had anything sympathetic. I mean, dude's looking out for number one. Like, cut it out. Like, give us that. And then the other thing for me that was bad, Gary, I know we mentioned this last night. The Red Guardian, man, that disappointed me so much. This man is Captain America's contemporary, his equal, just on the Russian side of things. And even though David Harbour, nothing against him, man, he did exactly what he was told to do.
Oh yeah, and he was great,
and he was great in what he was given. Like, he did a great job. I mean, so far the stuff I've seen this man in, I like it, and he did great.
Some of the stuff he said,
some of the stuff he says is funny. Like, it was great, but as a comic fan, it's like, that's not the Red Guardian.
I get it.
And so it just upsets me that in this movie they made the Red Guardian a giant joke. They didn't take him seriously at all, and that's not who his character is. And then that they made Taskmaster a lackey. They're just like not that serious of a man. Those two things is what took me out of it. And then, Gary, I think you'd appreciate this as a Batman fan. A superhero is only as good as its villains.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's all there is to it. And so where this movie starts to fail for me is in that category, is that the villains weren't strong, so therefore it didn't make the movie as strong. It didn't make Black Widow as strong. It didn't make her sister Florence Pugh as character as strong. It kind of felt, I guess I'd have to say it kind of felt pretty mediocre. The movie felt pretty mediocre, and you got to have something bigger, something better. And then it just kind of seemed like what we have talked about before. You need to tell a good story. And if you don't tell a good story, if you're more concerned about getting a message across than you are about telling a good story that has a good message to get across, that's where things start to break down a little bit. And that's where I think that this movie started breaking down, is I didn't feel like they had a good story, they had a good basis, they had a good foundation to tell, but instead of telling that good story with these good characters, they decided to focus more on the message behind it. There goes Cash telling this more about his message behind it than they did about focusing on the good story that they had. They had this good story. They just decided, but we want to make sure this message gets across instead. And that's where things
Yeah.
started breaking down for me.
Well, they had a good, yeah, they had a good story. They had a good message. However, which, the message being, I guess it was free will, I guess, the importance of that, importance of choosing your own path or whatever. But yeah, it was just, continuing to message, propaganda over story.
Yep. And that's the big thing. And again, we could tell you what that message is, but it would spoil a lot. But anyways, but yeah, and that's where I just think like, man, just tell the good story. You had all the elements there, and you tapped into those elements like we talked about with the good already. You tapped into them, but you didn't completely go all the way in. And especially in a movie that for me, I told, just telling everyone watching, like, I'm just like, man, this movie probably would have done better if it did come out after Civil War, like it should have.
That's my biggest issue, which I don't know really what to do about it, honestly. I mean, nothing. I can't do anything about it. But however, that is my biggest issue, more so than the villain problem, is the fact that this movie was about 4 or 5 years too late. One other reviewer I watched said it best. He said I think his year was a little bit wrong, but he said the best movie of 2014 comes out today. And basically, because this movie, it should have been right after Civil War, because it took me out of the movie thinking back to where it was trying to follow. And I don't like to be taken out of movies, I want to, and this was kind of like, honestly, and I don't want to sound harsh or whatever, but I think I think a lot of people wanted to see a Black Widow movie for a long time. Like I said, I know I did. But I think it wasn't. They can say what they want, that they already had it planned. But I think it was after the success of Wonder Woman, and stuff like that. Now, and it's just it's too late, And I think that we're talking about the bad. That is my biggest issue with this movie. Is it's too late.
Right, and the thing is, like, if this would have came out after Civil War, where there's already a lot of speculation on, man, who's going to survive Infinity War, who's going to die. And you had this movie come out right after Civil War leading into that and being like, what did they take her out now? I think it would have saved a lot of the stakes. Because I know for me, it's like I'm watching this movie, and sure, it was a fun ride for most of it, but it was kind of like, but you know what's going to happen. Like, there's no stakes to it. Like, you don't, think it just kind of like, okay, that's fine, I guess. It's kind of like watching the Star Wars prequels. Like, you're trying to find out a little bit more of the story and background, but you know where it's heading. So any kind of stakes and stuff, like, Obi-Wan's going to survive. So you're not really worried about whatever he's doing or his fights. And so that's where timing, I think they messed this one up. They missed an opportunity to do it right after Civil War.
I think the conclusion I came to about this movie earlier was, I think it's a good action movie. So overall, it's a good movie. But it's not a good comic book movie, and I don't think it's a great MCU movie. I think that's kind of where I came to, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, I mean, so that's kind of like, I know on the good and bad aspect of things that we kind of, land on. I mean, because again, there's some good stuff. I mean, again, like bringing it up. Hold on, where's it at? Is it this one? Yeah. I mean, these two right here obviously carried the entire movie.
Oh, yeah. They were great.
They were great. They played their parts to a T. I just think that they should have been handed a little bit better of a script. That's all.
Yeah.
Like,
their banter was really good.
Yeah.
And Florence Pugh, that's, the actress name. I can pronounce that name, not her actual name in the movie. Yeah. But I want to see her in more stuff, because I thought she was, like I said, she was the best part about this movie. And that's not a knock on Scarlett Johansson. The mantle of Black Widow being handed to her, I think is good. But yeah, this isn't a knock on any of the actors. I don't think what you said about Red Guardian, I can't speak to that because I know very little of the character. It's not a knock on David Harbour, but it's more a knock on the script, I guess.
Yeah.
The writing.
Yeah. The script is, that's what it comes down to. Actors and actresses can only do what they can with what they've been given. So that's why for me, like, I don't always say, well, this actor was horrible in this, unless they just were literally
just not good.
Unless they were just they just weren't good. Like like if their acting was terrible and they weren't believable, that's one thing. If they were phoning it in, that's one thing. But like nobody in this movie was doing that. Everybody took their role seriously and acted it and did a great job in it. Rachel Wise,
Oh
did
yeah.
a great job as well. So like, those
Actually,
things,
wish
those
they
things
would
are
have given
fine.
her a little bit more to do.
Yeah, exactly. They should have given her more to do because that she is a great actress as well. Like you have these great actors and actresses in this movie. They should have given them way more to do and given them a little bit more depth to each character so we can see their range. Because it almost felt like at times they were holding back because that's just what they had to do. So moving right along, what do you think? So I guess I'll start this one off. So for the pastor, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Probably just from a pastor perspective, really the focus on family. And the reason why I like this focus on family is because they weren't actually family.
Yeah.
Right. Like they were, they try not to spoil anything, but I mean, they were family, but they weren't. Okay. And when you watch the movie, you'll see how it all unfolds and stuff like that. But just being able to see how a group of people with the same, with the same commonality, and of what they're working towards, the same goals, the same purpose, just seeing those things come together and then being family out of that, I thought was great. I thought that was, I mean, like for us as ministers, a great depiction of the church. Like you're not actually blood relatives, but you can still find family outside of your blood and how tight those relationships can become and what they can lead to the future. And I thought for me, that was like the biggest, from a pastor perspective, kind of takeaway of what was great about this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I took that away from it, and I spoke to that earlier. I thought that was one of the best parts of the movie. Also, talking about because a big part of this movie was how Natasha and these widows are raised. How they're it's kind of like, if you ever see that Kurt Russell movie Soldier, dating myself a little bit, where kids are just put into this system to be trained killers. That's what this is, and that's how she's raised. And the portion of the movie deals with her and her sister struggling with being raised that way and how they were spoken to and I was just like, it really made me think, because this is just how, I think F and I are both like this, as a youth minister, as someone's working in children's ministry, it's like a reminder. It's like, these kids we work with and, we're surrounding kids, not my kids personally, my dog, they remember, they're going to remember how we're treating them, how we're raising them. And it was just a reminder last night. I'm not raising to be assassins or nothing, but, I was thinking about the things that I carry with me. Hey, you never know. Things that I still carry with me. It's like, what, how we speak and how we treat, people, but especially these kids that their minds are molding or, you know what I'm saying? It matters tremendously, if that made any sense at all. I may not have made sense at all today, folks. My mind's everywhere today.
I get it. Hey, no, it's like, for instance, I know I'm doing a decent job as a father because my middle daughter, man, I can't even talk today. My middle daughter said, I think I'm growing up in the wrong family. I think I should have grown up in a family of ninjas. And you know what? I'm like, apparently I'm doing something right if she thinks she should be a ninja.
Nala the ninja. I like it.
So I'm very excited about that.
Speaking of, while we're on air, I'll address this. We're at dinner at Efren's house last night, and his oldest daughter, Sayla, was asking when she can watch Jurassic Park. And how old is Sayla? 7, 8?
9.
She's 9. I'm sorry, I'm telling her.
You're good.
And
Nala's 7.
Okay, gotcha. And she asked me how old I was when I went and saw Jurassic Park. I did not help matters at all. I was like, I was 5.
Yeah.
So I just want to say on air, sorry about that. I did not help your cause with your oldest daughter, because you're like maybe 12, maybe I was just like, well,
maybe 11.
5.
We'll see.
As I said, I'm sitting there eating my dinner. I was like, I probably shouldn't have said that, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
No,
she
you're good.
said, well, he was 5 and he turned out okay, but not. Say, no, I did not.
I know. That was my thing. I was like, yeah, you don't know Gary very well.
Yeah. So
it's like I know my kids, man. Like they're gonna have nightmares with some of the scenes in that movie. Like there's just no chance.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
So, but speaking of all that dad stuff, man, moving right in to the dad aspect of Black Widow. Go ahead, Gary. What you think, man? I started the last one. You start this one.
I mean, the family concept, dad stuff as dads. I mean, PG-13. Follow that. Nothing too bad content wise. It's Marvel action. Little bit of language here and there, but nothing, no earmuff moments. But and that's really it. I mean, I can't really think of anything.
Yeah, I
with
mean,
you.
honestly, this is one of those movies that I mean, on like even for me, I know it's PG-13, but even for me, if you got a 10-year-old,
Mhm.
maybe fourth, fifth grade, honestly, whatever words that are said in that movie, they've probably already heard it from their elementary school, unfortunately.
Yeah, probably from the
So,
teachers
yeah, probably from the teachers.
this past year.
So, like, I mean, there's nothing gory anywhere near gore or anything like
Yeah,
that. I mean,
I think the most graphic scene in the movie was when Red Guardian is playing his arm wrestling, and
oh
he
yeah,
breaks this dude's wrist.
yeah, you have a couple of scenes where you see like
Yeah,
bones are broken and
yeah,
legs, but there's no
yeah, yeah. There's
blood or
that.
anything like
Yeah,
that. Like it's
no,
nothing too crazy.
yeah,
So I mean, you know your kid's best on that one.
yeah,
And even the action, this actually kind of ties back to the bad to me. Is a lot of the action is under the shaky cam stuff, and I
yes,
hate shaky cam action. So I mean, even then you don't see too much, unfortunately.
yeah.
Unfortunately, because I want to see good fighting choreography, especially with a character like Black Widow with hand
Oh,
to
no
hand
doubt,
stuff.
no doubt.
So they did a lot of the shaky cam nonsense, which was annoying.
Hmm.
So even then, your kids probably won't even notice the violence
Yeah, yeah,
because of some of that. So yeah, I mean, if you're a lot more conservative, stick to the PG-13. If you're a little bit more lenient, I mean, I would even say like if your kids are around 10, 11, it might not be too bad.
yeah,
But if they haven't seen any other MCU stuff, they're going to be completely lost. So
yeah, yeah,
there's that too.
yeah. Watch the other stuff first. So you ready to rate this thing? I am
Yeah.
struggling with my rating.
Yeah, yeah, and
Keep
that's the
going back and
thing.
forth.
I know there'd be a little bit of a struggle here. I know. I mean, I think people have heard it, from us as well. It's just kind of like, man, like we're going back and forth a lot, but we have got to get to our
It really
rating.
was a good movie, and that should be all that matters, but it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, and I don't know. So you're struggling. I'm struggling a little bit. I guess I'll just go first, maybe. And thing is, it's hard for me because as you know, as everyone knows, I'm a Marvel fan. You know, when it comes to DC, I have certain heroes that I love from the DC. Other than that, I could care less. But when it comes to Marvel, I kind of love Marvel
You're a Marvel guy.
collectively. I'm
Yeah.
a Marvel guy. I want to love every single Marvel movie. I want to be like fours, fives on every Marvel movie. Unfortunately, I cannot, and I struggled, Gary, people watching, between a 2 and a 3 with this. I struggled
Oh wow. Okay.
because of everything I said earlier.
Yeah.
Right. So I went back and forth. Is it a 2? Is it a 3? Where am I at? And where I'm finally landing, and I'll give my reason. My finally landing is I am giving it a 3. There's still a lot good in this movie.
Hmm.
There's still like if I was to take away my comic book knowledge,
Hmm.
and I didn't have like all the comic book knowledge. I didn't know what Taskmaster was supposed to be like. I didn't know what the Red Guardian was supposed to be like. I mean, they even name dropped another Russian hero or Russian villain kind of guy, and that upset me. How the story was supposed to unfold, I knew all that. But if I didn't know all those things, I probably would have liked this movie a lot more. And I think that's why I'm giving it a 3, because for those of you who don't know the comic book history and the comic stories, I think you will enjoy this movie. I
And
think you will.
yeah, and
And
I think sorry, I mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
no, good.
And I
Yeah.
think that was the consensus with us, riding back last night. It was I definitely could tell I enjoyed it more than you did
Hmm.
because of that reason alone. Because you guys know I don't know the comics. I know what you tell me. You know about
Right.
that and the basics.
Hmm.
Well, you might as well leave the 3 up there because I'm going 3 as
All right.
well. A solid 3, good movie. Enjoyed it. But I was the opposite though. I really wanted it to be a 4.
Okay.
When the movie opens, I'm like, this is a 4. This is gonna be a 4. I wasn't thinking 5. Wasn't going into it thinking 5.
Right.
I tried to, but as it kept on, I was like, oh man, it's a 3. It's a 3. And
Hmm.
then we said, dang it, 3. I wanted it to be a 4, but it's a 3. Solid movie. Go see it. Check it out.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I think this is, it's definitely watchable. Definitely worth seeing though.
Hmm.
But my question to you,
Hmm.
is it shelf worthy?
See, and that's where I think it will be shelf worthy.
I think
And I,
so
th-
as well.
and I think I have to go with it because I've always said, I think I said it a while back, if a movie is 3 or above,
Yeah, shelf
Like a
worthy.
4 or 5, 100%. 4 or 5,
Hmm.
100% shelf worthy. A
Hmm.
3 is the 50-50, 2 and 1, not a chance. So
Yeah.
since I landed on a 3, but
Yep.
for the sake alone of continuity, I would probably do it. But
Yeah.
so like I was already thinking when I go back and have my girls watch the entire MCU, I would
Watch this.
probably stick this movie where it belongs.
Hmm.
I'll probably have them watch it after Civil War. Now, normally I don't do that. Like, I don't say, okay, we got to watch Captain America first because
Yeah.
chronologically that happens first. Like, normally I don't care.
Yeah.
But up until this movie specifically, I felt like they released this one at the wrong time.
It did, and that's the biggest. Like I said, that's the biggest issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, alone, and yeah, it'll be shelf worthy for me because it's definitely gonna be rewatchable. When you do watch it back with people, though, there is an end credit scene. If you watch it in that order, don't show the end credit scene if they
Yeah,
haven't
don't.
seen the other stuff. Because I'll just say this: the end credit scene is in present Marvel time.
Yes.
But yeah, it'll be shelf worthy for me. And yeah, the 3 is a solid rating on my end. 4 is my hats off. 5 is the masterpiece, and with a hats off. But it's not quite a hats off, but it's a solid. And I'll buy this on 4K.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And here's the thing, too, Gary. When I went back and thought about this, I gave Wonder Woman 84 2. This is not
Yeah.
as bad as Wonder Woman 84.
Oh no!
So that was another
no.
reason why I was like, nope, this
Yeah.
this can't go lower than a 3.
Yeah,
But I
think I
definitely
gave it a
couldn't
2
go
also,
4.
didn't I? Didn't I give it a 2?
I can't remember. I have to go back.
Yeah, this is nowhere. This is much better than that movie.
Yes, much better.
Not quite as good as the first Wonder Woman, in my opinion, but it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go, folks. If you're a comic fan like me, you'd probably feel like me, disappointed a lot along the way.
Rage.
Yeah. If nerd rage.
Yeah.
If you don't have all that history, if you're just enjoying the ride that is the MCU, then I think you'll really enjoy this movie. So definitely go check it out, and just see what they did here. A nice little send off to Natasha Romanoff, played by Scarlett Johansson. I think that was great. I think she did great with this role, and I did feel that this was a good send off to her. I just wish she was a little bit more of a star in her own movie, but again, I get it. So definitely worth it. Definitely go watch it. Give this character the send off it deserves, and just go enjoy the Marvel, the MCU back in theaters where they belong.
Yep. And thanks for watching, as always.
As always. So don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. There you go. I pushed the wrong thing. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Tell people about us. Hit the like. Turn on the bell so you don't miss out on future videos. And then, of course, as you guys know, next week we have one more episode of Loki that we will be reviewing next Thursday. Make sure to check us out for that.
Loki. Yep.
And then we'll have a brand new episode next Friday as well for you guys. And as real pastors, just keep on rolling.
We are rolling. All right.
All right.
Peace out, homie.